All right, hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. So don't mind me in my situation right here. I am on daddy duty and watching my son. Actually just taking care of him while my wife is out. So without further ado, we're gonna actually get into this next video. We're gonna be going over our nutrition mastermind. The purpose of this video is to specifically teach you how to fish. The reason why we do this is because we want to equip you into not only knowing what to eat, but how to modify your lifestyle, because everyone eats differently. Everyone don't eat the same things, right? And especially if you're a person who's trying to lose weight, tone, build muscle, right? Your nutrition lifestyle is going to vary based on what your goal is. So the purpose of this mastermind is to equip you with the tools that you need in order to be successful. Okay. So without further ado, you're going to be learning how to determine your body fat composition and your health goal, right? You're going to also learn how to determine your daily caloric needs. We're going to be talking about your macros, right? Fats, protein, carbs, how to read a nutritional label. A few things that I also didn't put on this slide here is that we're going to be talking about our portions and also talk about the importance of ergogenic aids. It's basically supplementation that helps to amplify process, but also helps you to perform a lot better so that you can see results faster. Basic dietary guidelines is national recommendations, right? The foundations. What does the stats say when it comes to your nutritional lifestyle? And how do we modify it so that it can meet our particular goal? Okay? But the first thing we want to look at, if we're talking about dietary guidelines, right, we want to talk about calories. Calories is basically your body's energy currency. Okay, but how can we know how much calories we can burn and how much calories we can consume, right? We can find that out by learning our basal metabolic rate. That's basically the number of calories you need to fulfill for necessary functions at rest. So let's say that all you just do is wake up in the morning, watch Netflix, eat, piss, and sleep again, right? The amount of calories your body needs at rest would determine your basal metabolic rate. Okay? This is not BMI. This is not base mass index. Base mass index only takes into consideration your height and your weight to determine whether or not you're overweight, you're underweight, or at a normal weight. Okay? So what we primarily don't want to look at is your BMI. In fact, we want to look at your body fat percentage. Okay? Your BMR, right, varies based on your age, your gender, and your activity level. So the least active that you are, and the older you get, the lower your BMR is. The younger you are, and or the more active you are, the higher your BMR becomes. Okay? Think about BMR this way. It's basically it's basically your body's automated system, right? You want to work smarter and not harder. Okay. In the beginning process, you have to work harder because you're building your metabolic rate. You're building your body so that your body can burn more calories at rest so that you don't have to eat as much in order for you to see more weight loss. Okay. What is total BMR? Right? Total BMR is the combination of three things: your daily activity, so what you do for work; your spontaneous activity. So this is random activity that you just decided that you want to do during that day. It's not planned, it's just very random. Okay? The third thing is targeted activity. What are you doing that's targeted towards the result that you want? Okay? So you put all those together, right? Plus your base, which is your which is your basal metabolic rate, and then you're going to get your total basal metabolic rate. Okay? So rest, daily activity, spontaneous activity, and targeted activity gives you your BMR. Now you may be asking, how can I find my BMR? Right? You can go to Google, right? Type in BMR calculator. When you go to BMR calculator, you're going to see something like this here. Okay? What you have to do is just type in your age, your gender, your height, and your weight. Then when you select calculate, right, it's going to show you your BMR. Based on your age, based on your height and your weight, your body's going to need X amount of calories at rest. Down here is your total BMR. So if we incorporate more activity, as you can see, it's a lot higher. Okay? So let's say this is Jane Doe here. She's 35, female. She's 5'6" and 220. Okay? Now, based on her height and weight, her body burns 17, I just rounded it to the nearest 100. Her body burns 1,700 calories at rest. Okay? So if she exercises at the national recommendation of 4 to 5 days a week, right? To maintain 220, her body burns 2,500 calories. On top of her caloric needs are 2,500. Okay? I just want to make sure that you guys are tracking with me. And if you have any questions, right, you can, if you're on YouTube, you can comment below. Or if you're in a transformational circle, you can actually post, send me a question. Okay? So that is your total BMR. Another thing that you can look at is the calorie calculator, right? If you're on the BMR calculator, right, below it, you're going to see something that says calculator, well, calorie calculator, right? So let's go to Jane Doe for an example, okay? So if we look at Jane Doe, right, and Jane Doe, let's say this is just for weight loss, right? So for Jane Doe, she's 35, 5'6", 220, activity level, supposed to be working out at least 45 days a week, right? So to maintain 220, we already know that she needs to have at least 2,500 calories. She needs to be in a caloric deficit. And we're just going to talk about that in just a few moments before we talk about macros. Okay? So in order for Jane Doe to lose weight, she needs to consume less calories than what her body burns each day. That means she needs to eat less than 2,500. Is that if her BMR is 1,700 calories, that means me as her coach, I'll give her a number anywhere between 1,500 and possibly about 1,900, given her current physique. Now, let's just put this into application, okay? I'm actually going to create this table here. We got calories in, and also we got calories out. So if we know by default, calories in equals calories going out, that means you're going to maintain. Calories going in is more than calories going out. That means you're going to gain weight. All right, one last thing. If calories going in is less than calories going out, that means you're going to do what? Lose weight. Okay, so keep that in mind. If Jane Doe is consuming 25 calories, 2,500, my bad. If Jane Doe is consuming 2,500 calories, right? And her body, by default right now, is burning 2,500 calories. That means the number of the scale is not going to move. She's not going to lose weight at all. In fact, she's going to stay at 220 pounds because she's meeting her caloric needs. Okay? Let's say that Jane Doe is consuming 3,000 and her body naturally burns 2,500 calories, right? That means she's going to continuously gain weight. She's going to start hitting 225, 230, 250, right? And it's important that you do your food diary so that you can know how to stay within your caloric limit. Okay? Third thing, let's say that she's consuming 1,800 calories, and by default, her body is burning still 2,500, right? What does that mean? She's going to lose weight. So now she's seeing 215, 210, right? 205, 200. Now she got the 200. She's now in 190s, feeling and looking her best and feeling her best. You have to make sure that you know what your caloric needs are so that way you can continuously just see results. So now that we understand energy balance, okay, in calories, let's break it down into macros. Let's talk about protein, okay? Protein is the building blocks for your body, okay? So if we look at your body as a car, protein basically helps to build the frame of the car, okay? That's the materials needed to build the car, okay? Take note of this. Protein is 4 calories per gram. We just learned about calories, right? So it is 4 calories per gram. Protein is also made up of amino acids. However, you want to be mindful of this, right? Too much protein will convert to sugar that results to body fat. So if your body's not using the protein that you're taking in, it's going to just resort that as fat. So you have to be mindful of how much protein you're taking in. Okay? Now here are some protein sources. Right? So you have eggs, poultry, seafood, legumes, chickpeas, lentils, nuts, grains, and seeds. So you have your animal-based protein in eggs, poultry, and seafood, or red meats, right? And then you also have your plant-based proteins, which are the beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds. Protein should be 20 to 30% of your daily caloric needs. So let's say that Jane Doe, right, daily caloric needs is 1,800. In order to find out how many calories in protein that she needs or that you need, you have to multiply it by 20, any number between 20 and 30%. And that will give you the amount of calories you need in protein. Okay? If you want to find out how much grams of protein you need, right? What you have to do is to multiply 1,800 by your daily percentage rate for protein, which is any number between 20 and 30%, right? And then you have to divide that by 4. And once you divide that by 4, right, that will give you the amount of grams you need in protein. So let's say that your daily caloric needs is 1,800 if you're a female. Male, most likely your daily caloric needs might be somewhere between 21 and 2,400 calories if you're losing weight. Okay? So let's say that you want to find out how much grams in protein I need, or let's say how much calories in protein, right? So all you have to do is just multiply that by the amount of calorie, by the amount of the percentage of protein that your body needs to have per day. So any number between 20 and 30%, right? So let's say that I'm multiplying 1,800 by, let's say 25. Let's just make that a happy medium. All right, so 1,800 multiplied by 25%. My caloric intake in protein is 450 calories. Okay? What if I need to know how much, what if I want to know, because you really don't need to know how much grams of protein you need. But let's say that just for ish and giggles, right? You want to know how much grams in protein you need. So what you will do is just divide the 450, divide that by 4, right? Because it's 4 calories per gram, right? That will now give you the amount of grams you need in protein, which is, we divided 450 by 4. That basically tells you you need 112.5 grams of protein each day. This is just for Jane Doe. So for Jane Doe, whose daily caloric limit has been set for 1,800 because she's losing weight, right? Multiplied by her daily caloric, her daily protein percentage, which is 25%, right? We picked 25% out of this number, okay? Which gives us 450 calories. That means if she's doing her food diary, her protein, her caloric intake in protein should be close to 450, okay? If she wants to find it out in grams, she just divide that 450, the amount of calories in protein, by that conversion, 4 calories per gram. That gives you 112.5 grams of protein. But to keep things simple, I would just stay right here because the food diary on our app is going to calculate everything for you. Okay, if you're in our mastermind community or you have the transformational circle premium membership, right, I'm going to customize it for you so that way you can see what your daily caloric limit should be. Moving on, right? So if we're talking about fats is made of triglycerides. Fats is also the main energy source for cellular functions. Okay, so protein and fats has two different functions. All right. Protein is the building blocks for your body. Your body uses protein as a last resort for energy. Okay? It uses protein as a last resort for energy. So do not let anybody tell you that, oh yeah, we're gonna have low carbs and we're gonna have just a bunch of high protein and fats, right? Your body does not want to use protein as energy. It would rather be fatigued than use protein as energy because protein has its own necessity, which is to build your body. Okay? Take note of this. Fats is also 9 calories per gram. Okay? Fats help with thermal regulation, so basically helps to keep your body temperature, at homeostasis, right? But also be mindful, overconsumption may lead to cardiovascular disease and other diseases. So we're talking about high blood pressure, we're talking about stroke, heart attack, all types of stuff. What are some fat sources? Okay, they are good fats and they're also healthy fats. Okay, good fats are mono unsaturated and poly unsaturated fats. Okay, those are fats that are liquid at room temperature. Okay, so monounsaturated fats you can see is typically found in nuts and seeds, or I should say mainly nuts. Okay, and different type of vegetable oils. Not the vegetable oils, but you find it in some vegetable oils, like olive oil, for an example. Okay, then you have polyunsaturated fats. Polyunsaturated fats, right? You typically find that in seeds and seafood. Okay, and some other vegetable oils as well. You find it in soybean oil. Okay, you find it in grapeseed oil. And then you have saturated fats. Saturated fats are fats that are solid at room temperature. Trans fats is also another thing too as well. Okay, so for fats should consist of 25 to 30% of your daily intake. I typically just say the lower the better. So it's important that when you are looking at fat intake, right, that you focus on choosing low fat food options. Moving on. Carbs, right? Carbs is your main energy source. Carbs basically consist of glucagon or it breaks down into glucose, right? But glucagon is basically the foundation of carbohydrates. Okay, carbs help to regulate your blood sugar and insulin metabolism. So if you were ever diabetic, right, the doctor would say you're insulin resistant. What does that mean? Because that means that your body restricts any form of sugar because you already have too much sugar in your body. Carbs is mainly found in nuts, grains, seeds, plant-based options, right? All types of breads, right? You can find it in those particular things. However, not all carbs are created equal. Okay? Not all carbs are created equal. So you have your high GI, which is high sugar. You have your moderate GI, which is basically medium amount of sugar. Then you have your low GI, stuff that contains low sugar or low amount of carbs. Okay? So keep in mind of this, right? Carbs is also 4 calories per gram. Okay? Carbs is also 4 calories per gram. So you have your simple carbs and you have your complex carbs. Simple carbs are like candy, sweets, chips, you name it. Whole bunch of hot garbage. Complex carbohydrates are vegetable, fruits, unrefined whole grains, and even brown rice. Okay? Carbs are important because it helps to improve your overall performance. Not just during the day, but also during your workout. So if you need energy before your workout, have a small carbohydrate meal. So we just went over your energy balance, okay? We just went over your macros, right? We just went over calories, okay? In the next video, we're going to be talking about portions, and we're also going to talk about ergogenic aids, okay? So stay tuned to the next video.